This AskReddit user asks, what's way more dangerous than most people think? Listening to loud music using earbuds. Or really any headphones. Having permanent hearing damage sucks. Listening to loud music does what? What are they selling? They're selling chocolates. Coconuts. Coconuts kill 300 times more people a year than sharks, since only 16 attacks occur per year and 1 death every 2 years, while coconuts kill 150 a year. From falling from trees. Imagine if of all the ways to die you die from a coconut falling from a tree. That's honestly sad. If you saw a coconut brain someone on the sidewalk and it made a little hollow bop sound, do you think you'd be able to pretend it wasn't funny? This is awful. And hilarious. You'd never unhear it. Blocking your nose when you sneeze. Though it's rare. You can damage blood vessels in your eyes and nose. You can rupture your eardrum. And you can even have an aneurysm. Deep cuts on your fingertips. They're called felons and can infect your bloodstream. Clean them out, and if you see a red line traveling up your arm, get yourself to the immediately. My neighbor almost died from this when she cut her finger on her violin string. Edit. Removed my advice about changing tires. My main point was don't go under your car if the tire's off without a jack stand. But that should be obvious. I work on cars almost daily. I have never been under my car while changing a tire. Literally no part of my body goes under the car when changing tires. How are people doing it to crush themselves? Well, for one thing, a lot of cars like to stow their spare tires in freaking awful hard to reach area under the car. Take my minivan for example. A close friend and coworker of mine died recently of a blood infection. We're not sure what caused it, but what we do know is that he was seemingly fine one day and gone the next. This kind of thing is more serious than people know. Disclaimer. With the type of infection he had, there were no red lines outlining his veins or anything. So don't count on that in all cases. Driving tired. Sleepy. Man, I've done a full shift driving hundreds of miles, getting in and out the car for hours and filling in the reports. The worst one was I had like 2 hours sleep the previous night, and at the end of my shift I thought I saw a UFO. I was absolutely convinced. Turns out it was the moon. The dangerous part of drowsy driving is nobody really takes it very seriously. It's not like a cop will test you on breathalyzer or something, so most people will ignore it. It takes a split second to fall asleep while dreaming that you are awake and still driving, and end up killing innocent people. It's the same as DUI. I love the way you've written this, exactly how someone falling asleep at the wheel would have. Bandwagoning. When everyone basically adopts a hive mind and everyone collectively does the same thing even if it's wrong. Frying food. A friend came over, and me and my roommates made dinner buffalo chicken and, for me, the vegetarian, buffalo cauliflower. We pretty much just dropped the chicken and cauliflower in big old pots of oil. It was fun and delicious. The friend that come over happens to work in a restaurant. And she told the head chef there about what an amazing day she'd had making buffalo chicken and cauliflower with us. Well, he flipped out, saying frying food without the proper equipment, thermometer, vat, etc., is super dangerous. We could have easily set the house on fire. Admittedly, when our friend told us this, me and my roommates kinda just shrugged our shoulders. Since we've made fried ice cream, tostones, yucas fritas, and sweet potato fries, and the house hasn't burnt down yet. It's still dangerous though. We're just reckless. Towing a stuck car with a chain. There is a list of people who have died from having the chain come through the back window and kill them. If there's one thing I'll always stress, it's a real tow rope. Endless uses. Not that expensive. You'll probably only ever need to buy one. They won't smash your skull in if they break. Wild animals. Most people know that they're dangerous, but they don't think about how dangerous they are. An example of this would be something small like a rat. They carry diseases and can destroy stuff if not taken care of. Rabies is the worst way to go. I was shocked when I found out that rabies has a 100% death rate when left untreated. Alcohol. Attempting to change garage door springs without knowing what you're doing can kill you. This is crazy, I had no idea. Me being cheap would probably try to do it on my own. Thanks for saving my life. Garage springs are under intense pressure and can seriously FK you up if you don't know what you're doing. Always get a pro for garage repair. Not to worry yet, my flat is probably the same size as most garages. Not taking antibiotics to kill a sinus infection. Kinda seems obvious, but 13Y, oh me didn't think so, and that's how I ended up almost dead. Holding a sneeze in. There have been cases of ruptured brain aneurysms, throats and collapsed lungs. No recorded deaths though. According to the good old Google. Sneezing is dangerous too. I fractured a rib caused by a sneeze. Dislocated a shoulder. Apparently shoulder blades aren't supposed to clap together. Who da thunk it? WTF? Blunt kitchen knives. It may seem obvious, but they're more dangerous than sharp kitchen knives. Yup. You are much more likely to slip and cut yourself with a blunt knife. I'll add to this and say don't get those fancy, durable glass chopping boards. Get a nice silicone, plastic one with a textured surface. It won't look as pretty after a bit of use, but is much safer. Wood's also okay, but I personally prefer silicone, plastic. Also, if it's blunt, you'll put more pressure when chopping, so when it eventually gives way, if your fingers are in the wrong place, then it's worse news than if it was sharp. And apparently if you do cut your finger, it's better for it to be a clean cut than a messy one, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. Oh, I'd never thought about the pressure bit. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd guess a clean cut is easier for stitches or something. Water. Especially if we're talking about rivers and sea. A lot of accidents and deaths happen there. Roosters are dicks. Make sure you're on their good side. Mine has bitten and scratched me more times than I can count. Mosquitoes. I would have, though most people would know the dangers of mosquitoes, as they are the biggest killers of humans in history. Yet they go to sleep knowing there is one or two in the room because they're too lazy to get up and kill them. I guess because for most relatively wealthy people the mortality rate is rather low. Living alone. If you get seriously injured or ill at home and you're unable to reach a phone, your chances of survival are much lower than if you have at least one other person in the household. Had an uncle die on us when one day he fell and lay around for several days. The bond within the paternal side of my family wasn't really strong. Aw man. That's really terrible. I'm so sorry. Always check in on your family members. My grandam almost died this way. She fell when getting out of the tub. Her phone was in sight but out of her reach. Her neighbors heard pounding but didn't think anything of it. She was naked and alone on the floor with a broken hip for 3 days. Texting while driving. Put your FG phone away, UFK. Calling the police for a forged $20. Apparently. One that springs to mind for me is flushing your sinuses, i.e., putting water up your nose. If done with straight tap water, brain-eating amoeba can kill you. Excuse me, what? Google neti pot. Even if it seems gross or barbaric, as a person who gets terrible sinus infections, they can work wonders. But you have to do it right. And use sterile water. Edit to add. Breathe through your mouth but don't swallow. If it feels like you're about to drown, you're doing it right. For anyone wondering, sterilize it by boiling or use a saline solution. Tylenol. About 500 people die in the US every year from overdose. Platypuses. They are venomous and not a lot of people know it. How the HL has a comment of a platypus got 50 upvotes. Weird. The ones that wear fedoras and fight evil scientists are especially dangerous. Hey, where's Perry? Doofenshmirtz better be careful. Palm trees. They are so much heavier than they look and their branches can kinda just fall off without warning. How TF does this post already have a platinum and gold? Sticking your finger up a pit bull's AE. There is a myth that if you stick your finger up there, the dog would let go if it was biting you. Don't do this, as all it would is make the dog madder. I'm sure you know this from experience. Credit cards. If you're sensible and pay it off, credit cards are a good thing for your credit rating, which is important for getting rent or a mortgage, etc. A lot of household chemicals. Mix the wrong stuff and it's game over. Our seriously hurt. Driving. Like, you see the statistics of car crash deaths, but I don't think you ever truly realize how dangerous it is to simply drive somewhere, since it is such a routine thing. Life on the road would be safer if 5-year mandatory retests were a thing. And not just for seniors. A woman scorned. Cat bites. Hiking in the woods with earpieces in. Even in a suburban area. It seems innocent enough. But not being fully aware of your environment can lead you to not notice snakes or coyotes. Coyotes are big babies. They'll only really challenge you if you're encroaching on their dens. Wolves, on the other hand, will absolutely bring you down. Or the most dangerous animal to humans of all, other humans. Or other hikers. There's a trail I like to run and it's fairly narrow and flanked by poison oak. So people have to kind of stand aside to let others pass. Since you can't comfortably get around someone who's actively walking. Anyway, the amount of people I've come up on who don't hear me because they're listening to music is kind of crazy to me. IDK, how they can feel safe being out in nature not hearing anything around them. And of course they can't hear me when I talk to them. And so I always scare the bejesus out of them when I touch their shoulder to ask if I can pass by. Hiking in Arizona heat. Always. I repeat, always bring too much water when hiking. Grand Canyon too. You can go down a lot quicker than up. Having unprotected SX. People know that rip currents are dangerous. But don't think about them as a real threat often enough. If you're caught in a riptide, swim parallel to the shore. Right? Yes sir. I got pulled out approximately 100 feet or so in a rip on Maui. I remembered this info and swam to my left out of the riptide and easily swam back to shore. Edit. It is super important to not panic as well. Christ. I'm terrified of the ocean, so I'd probably panic if I went further than 20 feet from the shore. Glad you made it out safe. Hippos kill more people than lions do. Blowing into an orifice, BE, etc., can cause an air embolism. Excuse me, what? Blowing into an orifice, BE, etc., can cause an air embolism. They said that blowing into an orifice can cause an air embolism. Authoritarianism. Low self-esteem. Living beyond your means. Always having to leverage assets and become financially overextended in order to have things here and now. Quote, concept of delayed gratification should be drilled into everyone at a young age. The concept makes total sense, but is it hard to put into practice. Our brains are wired to place precedence on our current needs over our future ones. Once you learn it though, it feels way better. To me, there's no better feeling in the world than seeing my savings account go up and knowing that if ST goes wrong, I will be okay. That security is ironically priceless. Subcutaneous fat. Police officers apparently. Shots fired. Literally. Or knees pressed. Eating raw cashews. Misinformation. Facebook has entered the chat. Fox News has entered the chat. Reddit has entered the chat. Air. Most people who breathe air die within 80 years of their first exposure to it. Moose. Bigger threat to people up here than bears. Moose were so underrated as a threat for so long that they've become a bit overrated. I've had Reddit arguments with people suggesting they're on par with grizzlies. I've been close enough to both animals in the wild to smell them. Grizzlies are a shit ton scarier than a moose. Moose are just a lot more common and people don't take them seriously as a threat. Both of which increase the chances of a bad encounter. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.